Hello violins, it's Mr. Ramos here. This video is for the Lincoln Middle School beginning violin class, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Cielito, Lindo, which is a song that your assignment that's going to be due this next coming week on Monday. We're going to be doing the first 8 measures of Cielito, Lindo, and I'm going to break it down for you today. Okay. We'll work through it. We'll break it down in 4 measure increments. So we'll do first 4 measures, and then we'll do the second 4 measures. And then I'll do it in guitar position, and I'm gonna play it for you too, with the metronome. The speed that I want you to go on this song for now is gonna be 70 beats per minute. So like I told you, if you have your metronome, or if you have a metronome app, or on the internet, if you were able to find the website that I used, please remember that we're going to be doing it at 70 beats per minute, so it's kind of slow. So that means that we're going to have enough time to really focus on how we use the bow, where our fingers are placed, and so forth. So keep that in mind as we go through this video, and I really want you guys to make sure that you're understanding what you're doing. Okay, so first things first, let's talk a little bit about the song Cielito, Lindo. One of the most popular mariachi songs in Mexico. Really popular song. Just about anybody who is Mexican knows this song. It's been sung by many artists all over, from not just mariachi, but in different styles. So it's a really important song. So it's important that we give it justice and we play it to the best of our abilities. The tempo that you see on the music, it says allegro, means it's going to be quite an upbeat song. And then you'll see a little quarter note that says it's a little quarter note equals 160. Now 160 is the beats per minute that we eventually want to get to. It's kind of fast. Yeah, 160 is pretty fast, but eventually we'll get to 160 as we continue to practice. But it is going to take a little bit of work. But we'll start at 70 and then we'll work our way up. The treble, make sure you always look at the treble clef. We know that we're in the treble clef. If you ever see a music that you have a bass clef, then obviously that's the wrong piece. So make sure that you know that you're the treble clef. Right after the treble clef, you should have a sharp sign. That's called the key signature. And you should have one sharp. And that sharp is going to be F sharp. So every F that we see in this song is going to be an F sharp. Okay? Keep that in mind. So that means that that's going to alter some of our patterns whenever we use them. Because we know that a low 2 or a regular 2, those sometimes if you have an F sharp, that's going to alter that as well. So just kind of know where the sharps are at, so you know what pattern to use for each string. Whenever you add or remove sharps, the patterns change for each string. Every pattern has its different every sharp. Whenever you have one sharp, it's the key signature though. Now if you have one sharp, it's going to be F sharp. It's going to be G. We're going to be in the key of G, and G has a certain patterns that you're going to use for each string. It follows the same patterns for each string for the key of G. If you have one sharp. Now if you add another sharp, it's going to be F sharp and C sharp. Then the patterns, all the patterns change. Most of the patterns change, and so you have to know which patterns you're playing, and that's why it's important to know how many sharps you have in your music and what key you're in. And for this song, we're in the key of G. Violins, we're in the key of G. If I ask you that in class, hey, what key is the song in? You say the key of G. It's the same key that Noche de Paz was in, so we should have a pretty good idea of how to play these notes. Okay. All right. So we talked about the key signature. Now let's go to the time signature. The time signature for the song is 3/4. That means there's 3 beats in a measure, and the quarter note gets 1 beat. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this song is like a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Kind of like valse, primer valse, or valse number 1. So keep that in mind. Things to look at on this piece. For the most part, you have to make sure you watch the ties. You have a lot of tied notes here. And it's really important that we understand what the tie means. Remember that the tie connects 2 notes together and makes it into one long note. Be careful with the difference between the tie and the slur. The slur is 2 notes that are connected, but they're different. One goes up or the next one goes down. That's called a slur, and you play that all in one bow. The tie, the note has to be exactly the same. It can be a different rhythm. It can be a quarter note and a half note. You can tie those 2 notes together, but it has to be on the same line or on the same space. And that also uses the same bow. So if you have a tied note, it's going to be all down. You're just going to sustain that note for as long as you're supposed to. All right, the first notes that I want you to look at are going to be measures 3 and 4. you have a dotted half note tied over to another dotted half note on measures 3 and 4. So just make sure that you know that the dotted half note gets 3 beats and the other dotted half note gets 3 beats. So then you tie them together, you have 6 beats, total 6 beats that you're gonna sustain that note, which is E. Okay. Again, at measure 7 and 8, at the end of measure 7, you have a half note, and then at the beginning of measure 8, you have another half note, and then those two notes are tied together. So you have a half note which is equal to 2, another half note which is equal to 2, and they're tied together. So now you have a note that's equal to 4 beats. So just make sure you're tapping your foot during those tied notes so you know exactly where you're at. Measures 11 to 12. At the end of measure 11, you have another, you have a quarter note, and at the beginning of 12, you have another quarter note, and those two are tied together. So now the quarter note equals 1 beat, and then the other quarter note equals 1 beat. So then those two notes tied together equals 2 beats, and so you're gonna hold those notes out for 2 beats. And the same thing happens at 13 and 14, and then at the end of 15 and 16, you actually have at the end of 15, you have a half note tied over to a dotted half note. So the half note is equal to 2 beats, and the dotted half note is equal to 3 beats. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. You're going to sustain that note for 5 beats. So keep that in mind. Those are dotted half notes. But the assignment we're only going to be doing from measures 1 through 8. I just wanted to kind of talk about those ties that we have there. And so let's talk about, let's go through our process. We start off first counting the rhythm, right? Very important to know how to count. Remember, dotted half note gets 3 beats. Make sure you're tapping your foot. I'm going to set a metronome here so you guys can hear, and you'll be able to follow along with me as well if you want to. So just kind of keep that in mind. Here is the counting measures 1 through 4, and then we're going to break it in 4 measures, in 4 measure increments, and then we'll do the next 4 measures, and then you guys can go home and practice this. Okay? Here's measures 1 through 4, counting. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and 1, 1, 3, 1. Now remember, I held out that note because it's a tied note. There's 2 dotted half notes tied together, and I have to hold that note out for 6 beats. So let me do that one more time for you. Here's the first 4 measures. 2, here I go, and 1, 1, 3, 1. Okay, and that's the end of measure 4. Okay, the next step is to note, name, and finger, and I'm going to do this in guitar position. The first note we have here is B. B, first note B, first finger on the A string. The next note is going to be A, open A string. And then we have G, quarter note. And then we have E. And we sustain the E for 6 beats. Right? So again, B. And then we have open A. B for a dotted half note means it gets 3 beats. And then we have an A half note. It gets 2 beats. And then the G quarter note gets 1 beat. And then we have an E. Dotted half note tied to another dotted half note, which is equal to 6 beats. Okay. Now in time, let's go ahead and note, name, and finger in time. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. B, A, G, E. One more time. Here I go. And 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and B, A, G, E. And I'm plucking and saying it. This time I'm going to do it one more time, and I'm just going to say it. And I'll put the fingers down here. 1, 2, 3, here I go. B, A, G, E. Okay, so now that we have the note, name, and fingerings, we can go ahead and pluck it. 2, 3. You can say it if you want to, or you can just pluck it. I'm just gonna pluck it. Ready? Here I go. And make sure you let it ring all the way through there. Okay? So that's in guitar position. Now in playing position, let me try that one more time. We got a little bit off there. 2, 3, here I go. keep that in mind. That's how we pluck it. Now I'm gonna try to play those 4 measures. Okay. We got the metronome going still. Starting at the balance point. 1, 2, 3, 1. Here we go. Okay, 6 beats on the last one. It's going to be a little bit trouble. Be careful, make sure you have enough bow to do that there. Okay. So that was that. That's the first 4 measures. Now let's go back to the next 4 measures. You have measure 5. You have another dotted half note. Let me go ahead and count that for you. Measures 5 through 8 now. Again. 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. You see how I did that? The 2, I held it out because it's a tied note, 2 half notes tied together. And then the last beat that you have at the end of 8 is 3. Okay. Here is again counting 5 through 8. 2, 3, 1. Ready. Count. 1, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and note, name, and finger. The first note we have there at measure 5 is A. And then the measure 6, the first note is again another A. And then the last note of measure 6 is a G. 3 fingers on the D string. And then the first note of measure 7 is B. First finger on the A string. And then the next note right after that, the half note tied over to the other half note is going to be G. And this is the one that you sustain for 4 beats because it's a tied note. And then the last final note of measure 8 is going to be open D. Okay? So again, A, 5, measure 6, A. The last one of measure 6 is G. And then measure 7, first note B, and then back to G. And the last note of measure 8, D. And the last note of measure 8 is going to act more like a pickup note to the next measure, which is measure 9. And you'll hear that going here as well. Okay? So now I'm going to pluck it for you and note, name, and finger for you. Note, name, and finger. No plucking this time. 2, 3, ready, note, name, and finger, go. A, G, B, G, D. Again. Ready? Here I go. A, G, B, G, D. Okay, now plucking it, no sound, without me saying it, I'm sorry. Here we go, and Okay, let me do that one more time for you. 5 through 8. 2, ready, here I go. Okay, so that's plugging there. Plugging it in playing position. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. Okay, now playing it. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. Okay, try that one time. 1, 2, 3, here I go. And that last D was that last D that you saw there. Okay? And so then together, you play that together, you put those together once you figure out the first 4 measures, the second 4 measures, then you put all of it together. Okay? And you play it. So now that we've broken it down, now you should be able to play the first 4 measures Then you start practicing and doing it from measure 1 through 8, and that's what I want you to record for your assignment. Is give me that recording of measures 1 through 8 with the metronome at 70 beats per minute. Okay. Don't just record it one time. Record it several times. Give me the absolute best recording you can, so that way you can get a nice high grade. All right. Happy practicing, guys.